Now I'd like to introduce the last scheduled conversationist, Liam Lockhart, who's the head of the Santa Fe University Arts and Design Film School.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Jeff, good evening. A pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
I'm hoping, given your background in media, that we might be seeing, if not eye to eye, at least on the same page with several issues. I think one of the first and foremost concerns is when Governor Richardson introduced the wonderful tax incentives for film that were squashed under she whose name will not be mentioned.
Who now brags that she buried a $1 billion company, a $1 billion industry to 200 million, and now is bragging that it's back up to 500 million?
Exactly.
Her name is Martinez, by the way.
Oh. I have a really bad reaction to that.
Let me tell you a quick story. In fact, my friend just retired. He was the president of Warner Brothers. He just retired. In fact, he texted me today. He's from Hawaii. He just retired last week after 40, 50 years. The first State of the State Martinez gave, I was invited because of my industry, and I was there. And I was walking out, going over to Rio Chamo for lunch, and my phone rang, and it was my friend from Warner Brothers. And he literally tells me, we're moving 11 films out of the state in the next 3 years. They had 14 films at that time. They had 14 films in New Mexico slated for like 5 years. They literally moved 11 out of the state within 3 years, and our industry went from $1 billion industry to about $200 million. Absolutely.
So you are in favor of removing the caps?
No, I want to shut it down. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, please don't. My opponents will probably put that out on the air, but no, it's my industry.
Right.
I favor it very much so.
Okay, then you would probably have a favorable ear towards this. A lot of the productions that come into Santa Fe, if you're not aware of this, they're offered these incentives if they employ a certain number of people that are New Mexican residents. And they invariably become jobs that are referred to as below-the-line positions, meaning people that are working as grips, working with the lighting, doing craft services, production jobs. In my time here, I've now had the privilege, I call it, to be a resident of New Mexico for the last 14 years. I came to my senses in 2004 and left Los Angeles and have moved here, and I'm proud to be a New Mexican. I have seen so many talented individuals that have come to me either through the community college or now at SFUAD, wanting support for their own homegrown film productions and not necessarily finding it here within the state, yet we have the above-the-line talent here. We have many qualified writers, directors.
And we have a fund that we're supposed to fund to help fund some of these productions that we don't fund, or there's money's actually there, but we don't allocate it out.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know if you know that.
Will that change?
It will change January 1st, 2019.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I want to answer a question that other people had earlier, and that is, how do we get you elected? You can do exactly what I did when I walked in tonight, which was I had been declined to state, so I re-registered and put myself down as a Democrat.
So let me just summarize, because we're probably going to agree on everything. But just so we can get to our plan for film and television, talking about creating opportunities for people in New Mexico. So here's our plan. One, I want to eliminate the cap, right? And everybody said, well, we should just raise it. Let's just eliminate the cap, because if we're smart about it, it doesn't matter how big the cap is. By the way, let me just make this very clear. 48 cents on every dollar the studios spend here literally goes right back into the economy and goes right back into taxes that we collect. All right, so it's not like we're giving them stuff. I mean, we're giving them rebates to come here, but that's the industry, right? And so there's 16,000, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's 16,000 employees within this industry. Now, we want to triple the size of the industry, so our goal is to go from $500 million of production to, or $500,000 in production to $1.5 billion in production. And we want to do it a couple of different ways. One, I think we can eliminate the cap immediately. Let's just be smart about it. If you don't know this industry literally shuts down by August, because we reached the caps. And then the governor realized she made a major mistake, so now what they've done is they deferred payments. So you reach the cap, and it's like, okay, we'll take your business this year, we'll pay you in deferred payments. And now we've been doing it for so long that the deferred payments are literally 8 years out. So the studios are like, wait a minute, I'm going to get my deferred payment in 8 years? Screw you guys, I'm going to Georgia, or I'm going to Canada, or I'm going to Louisiana. So we have to change that. So we have to pay the deferment payments now. We have to get rid of that. So by lifting the cap and making those things within 12, at least within 12 months, right? So we can do that, so that's good. Then we have to look at post-production and opportunities to grow the industry, because 10 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago, post-production would not have come here, because the studio execs literally like walking down and looking at dailies in a room. They used to all get together and look at dailies. And today, guess where they watch dailies? Right here. And they literally can watch it live. Right? So there's no more of this get-together dailies. So now the post-production guys, and now there's such a demand. There's over 700 productions a year. When you start counting television, cable, and movies, there's over 700 productions a year. And so post-production, it's delayed 8 to 12, 18 months now because there's not enough facilities. So as we grow production, I believe we should look at opportunities and maybe post-production. I pitched Bill Richardson digital production 20 years ago, and guess where it all is now? Canada, right? And so again, we have to look at opportunities. So as we grow the industry, as we grow the business, we believe we're going to grow by tripling it. We're going to grow 10 to 12,000 new jobs. Now, I do agree with the unions, and I do agree that to do that, they have to hire residents. But let's not fool anybody. 75, 80% of the people we hire in the industry are residents, absolutely. And we appreciate you moving here and being in the industry. But 75, 80% of them are transplants. They're not New Mexico kids. So as we grow the industry, I want to make sure New Mexico kids, Hispanic, Native American, and African American kids literally have this opportunity. So we've already announced this on your property, and I don't know if you're going to be the head of it, but we can talk about it. We're going to announce, and we've already announced an international film school. And we're going to start an international film school right here in Santa Fe. And so I want to train New Mexicans for those jobs. Now we're also going to create internships and fellowships in our high schools and stuff. All right, we're going to get our kids hooked and connected. Now I'll just summarize it very quickly. We're going to have, within 3 years, we'll have 1,500 kids going to school here in Santa Fe. I'm hoping 300 New Mexico kids, 1,200 international kids. Now, why do I say international? When you look, and I've done the research, when you look at the film schools around the country, the average film school, an international kid, pays $53,000 a year to go to USC Film School or NYU, $53,000 a year. So you start doing that at $1,200, you guys go home and do the math. Literally within 3 or 4 years, we'd be generating about $60 million of economic growth with this film school. Just the film school, about $60 million of economic growth. And I want to target internationally, but I want to target, I'll open up to everybody, but I want to target Hispanic, Native American, and African American kids. Now, New Mexican kids, we priced out probably $8,000 to $9,000 a year. I would probably use a lottery scholarships to make sure they're paying for that. I want to train New Mexico kids. One, below the line, all those jobs we're talking about. Then the next phase, what we'll do immediately, is we want to create top line funding for New Mexico-based productions at 2.5% debt financing. Because you can go get a loan right now, or you can go get financing for a film, but it's going to cost you 6, 8, 10%. So we want to do it at 2.5% for New Mexico-based companies, right? So we're making that return back to the investment funds, but we're doing that. But also, I'm going to ask for points on the back end, right? Because $100 million production, all of a sudden they make a $100 million movie, I get $15 million. That's going to go right back into the endowment fund to protect the film school so it never runs out of money, okay? So there's the things we can look at that. Now, the reason I say international, and the reason I want to target Hispanic, Native American, and African American kids, not because Jeff Apodaca wants to do something good for our community, I want to do that. But guess who's looking for that? The film industry is literally looking for the storytellers. They're looking for the storytellers within the Latino community. They're looking for the storytellers within the African and Native American community. So I want New Mexico to lead and be the pipeline for our film industry. And all of a sudden they're saying, man, look at New Mexico. They're literally training Mexicans, South Americans, Spanish, kids from around the world in New Mexico. And think about the international culture that would be here. And the $60 million of economic growth just with the school. I'm not even talking about I'm not even talking. And folks, within 4 years, our $10 million investment, the state would invest $10 million to start the school. Our $10 million investment would literally be generating $14 million of city and state tax revenue for Santa Fe and for the state. So it would literally pay for itself in a matter of 4 years and then grow above that. And the way we would, and we figured we need about $35 million to start the film school. I've had 5 conversations with 5 studios, and they literally have said, if you do this, I want $5 million from their endowment to help fund the school. If you do this, they've said, we want to sit and talk with you. So I believe we can raise $35 million for an international film school, because the studios are like, holy cow, New Mexico could be the pipeline for the next generation of filmmakers and production people. So that's what we want to do. And by the way, I've been pitching this. I pitched this to Bill Richardson 20 years ago, right? This isn't new. The film industry's been looking for this for a long time. So those are our game plans. So I hope I didn't.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I only wish that you were governor now. In 2 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not aware of it, the Santa Fe University of Art and Design will be closing.
Be closing down.
What people aren't aware of is that our film school, under my tenureship, has now been named one of the top 20 film schools in America for the last 2 years. That will disappear completely. Santa Fe will no longer have that asset.
It's God calling.
Yeah.
Elect me. Boom. It's God calling. I'm telling you, it just
Vote for this man. I need a job.
There's too many opportunities in New Mexico don't capitalize on. And then again, we sit on $23 billion and invest it all outside our state. So that's what I'm saying is we have to look at opportunities on what we're doing. And our opportunities are in film and television. Our opportunities are cleaning our water. Our opportunities are renewable energies. Our opportunities are bio. We haven't even talked about biotechnology. The University of New Mexico is one of the top biotechnology research institutions in the country. 38 years ago, I went to MD Anderson in Houston. Today, I wouldn't leave the state of New Mexico. And in the last 10 years, the University of New Mexico has literally created over 400 patents in biotechnology research, in Alzheimer's and cancer research. 50 of those now are being commercialized into companies. 8 in the state of New Mexico, 42 have left. Now, why did they leave? We didn't invest in those companies. We didn't invest in infrastructure. And we haven't trained those kids for those jobs. And those are the jobs and the opportunities that we're talking about just within biotechnology. And I want you to go look at Pennsylvania. I want you to go look at North Carolina. I want you to go look at Chicago. I mean, they literally started it with less money than what I'm saying, and their economies have blown up. I mean, folks, just real quick, because I know we're ending the night. Austin, Texas. I always talk about Austin, Texas. Who's been to Austin, Texas? Okay, most of this room. Who was in Austin, Texas in 1980? 1980. Okay, 2 of us. In 1980, Austin, Texas had 6 bars, mostly cowboy bars, on 6th Street, had a great university with 45,000 students. It happened to be the state capital. And guess what was happening in Austin, Texas in 1980, in the mid-80s? Every UT grad was leaving to California, starting technology companies in Silicon Valley. And Texas got tired, Austin got tired and said, no more. And they created a $125 million private-public investment fund. They didn't invest $1 billion. They have created a $125 million investment fund and said, no more, you're not leaving. Now, the most famous guy, not the biggest guy, but the most famous guy is Michael Dell. Dell Computers. Dell Computers was literally leaving, and they invested $4.3 million into his company and kept it there in Austin. And now, 30 years later, the cool thing about Austin is all that music and all the restaurant and all that nightlife and all the cool things we talk about Austin didn't exist 30 years ago. That all came because they created 100,000 jobs in technology and invested into a university, invested into their community. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. We can literally do that right here in New Mexico with film and television, with cybersecurity, with biotechnology. We have created industries for states in the United States for years and continue to do it today. We just allow it to leave. It's sinful that 25% of our economy, 25% of our families, it's sinful that 25% of our families live in poverty. It's sinful that 52% of New Mexicans live on some type of government assistance, and we sit on $23 billion and invest it into Texas and into Austin. So we're talking about investing back into you and into us. And that's what we're going to do, and film and television is one of those areas that we just feel our strength in. So, fantastic. Thank you very much.